I've been asked many times to show the whole collection. It's something I've always avoided. To be honest, I was a bit embarrassed, and it seemed somewhat self-indulgent, so I've always avoided it. But anyway, I've relented. I've been asked and asked and asked, and I've given up. Here we go. Here's the whole collection. What I'll do, I'll give a quick run through, and I'll show what's in the house, and then I'll come back and I'll do a slower. I'm just walking up the stairs here, and I'll talk through each piece, but that will take time. You know, it'll probably take 40 minutes, I'd imagine. So for those of you who just want to have a quick look, here we are. I'm just walking through the house, and like I say, I'll come back and do a much more in-depth look in 5 minutes or so. There we go. Let's pull back here. There's a few down there. I'm relying on an LED light on top of the camera. It's far from ideal, a little bit dark. Actually, there's some of my wife's shoes in the background here. These are all mine, and obviously these are my wife's. A nice pair there. Let's just go through. I don't know how well this is going to show up on this LED light, but it's actually dark outside, so I'm having to rely on the LED. Excuse the wallpaper there. We had a leak in this room. Some of the roof blew away in a storm last winter, and made a hole in the roof, and you know, we lost the ceiling, so we brought the wall we've had it replastered. There's new wallpaper. Oh yes, a pigeon came down the chimney breast, and this is an old chimney. It had a coal fire in there. Pigeon came down the chimney, and it was rattling around here, so I had to cut the hole, let the pigeon out. That was a real nuisance. I've just obviously not got around to finishing that, so excuse that. There we go. Another wall where it was all wet. We've had to scrape all the paper off. We're going to redo it. But here we go. Oh yes, there is a. Let's just go back. There's our curtains. Yeah, this is where we had the leak. You know, it was absolutely pouring through. Didn't wet the curtains, bizarrely. Where are we? And there's another floor. That's some narrow staircase. I haven't got any on here. There we go. There's a few more just there. Oh, gosh, it's quite warm up here. It's one of my alligator bags. Another one. That one's absolutely enormous. It doesn't give you a full sense on screen how big that is. There's a few real bizarre ones that, to be honest, I can't remember what they are. I've had them that long. Nice pair of 1980s Jean-Paul Gaultier boots there. A few crocodile bags. Here we go. Okay, so if you were merely just wanted to have a quick gaze, now's probably the time to turn off. I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to talk through each piece. It will take time. I would imagine 30 or 40 minutes. So there's quite a lot to look at here. Here we go. To be honest with you, those I don't actually know what the maker. They're English. They're Northampton. I don't actually know what the maker is. I've stripped some of the polish off one of the shoes. These are a pair of extremely heavily used Barkers. Once again, I don't remember the name and the maker of these. They're English, Northampton. These are Joseph Cheney. These are the Imperial. They've got quite a nice fiddleback waist. They could do with a pair of stretchers. I've not got enough shoe trees and stretchers. They're more Cheney. And these are 1960s Trickers. Really beautiful. Got the complete. The elastics have stretched slightly, but nothing serious. But they've got all the original soles. Let's just zoom the camera out slightly. These are Bespoke Peal and Co riding boots. They're from about 1910. The skins are lovely, but most of the stitching had failed. Let's have a look if I can drag one out. There we go. Look, you know, it's completely failed all the way down. It's absolutely gone. A bit of a shame, but not impossible to repair. I've repaired this one. It was a colossal job. I've restitched all of this by hand, and I've yet to just finish off around the edging, but it took hours and hours and hours fishing away with my arm inside the boot. But yeah, that's in fact I had to stitch the lining first, then stitch the outer skin, and then there's the weather. This keeps the water out, the weather strip. So there's been about 4 rows of stitching. Quite remarkable. A big job. These are gorgeous. These are by Wildsmith from about 1970. Bespoke, really lovely. These are all Wildsmith down here. These are about 1970 as well. They're a bit scruffy, but I really like them. You know, the stitching's all good. Another pair of Wildsmith. I've started to strip off the polish. It's like varnish. They're actually in quite good condition underneath all this grotty varnish. But I call it varnish. It is like it's actually polish, but old polish it goes crunchy and it starts to crack. So they're not as cracked as they first appear. Most of the cracking is actually the old polish. Eventually I'll have all that off. More Bespoke Wildsmith, really beautiful. Late 60s, I think. These are Wildsmith, but they're not Bespoke. They're made by Edward Green for Wildsmith, and they're suede. It's black suede. Probably mid to late 1980s, and more early 70s Wildsmith. Let's have a look what we've got here. These are all by Edwin Clapp, an American maker. These are 1920s alligator skin, and I'm afraid they're in shocking condition. They've just broken, the skin's totally perished. Bizarrely, it is actually restorable. You can patch this from behind. I've got another pair, very similar, but in much, much finer condition, by Edwin Clapp once again. They have the alligator skin toggles, both do. They're the original sort of toggles. The laces have changed, but the toggles I've kept. These are beautiful, absolutely stunning. Buckskin, let's zoom out slightly. Oh, I can't. Yeah, buckskin and box calf around about 1930. Completely original. They fit me beautifully. And these are amazing. These are a sandal. Men's sandals trouble me because men don't have the prettiest feet, and they very rarely sort of keep their feet well pedicured. But these, it covers all of the toe area, covers all the heel area. You do see a little bit of flesh here. I think they're lovely. They're 1930s, made by the same maker, Edwin Clapp, an American. Edwin Clapp again. They're between 1940 and 1950. Those are 1920s, those two. 1930s. And these are between 1940 and 1950. Alligator skin, really gorgeous. Edwin Clapp once again, pair of button boots. I've started to strip the polish off one. It's like a bitumen, and it's a bizarre green colour underneath. So the polish is so thick and gungy, it's turned to like crystal. You can't moisturise the skin through that, it has to come off. So I'll take all the polish off. This skin is still very soft, but that's actually quite hard. Once all the polish is off, I'll be able to moisturise them and re-dye them. They'll be okay. Johnson & Murphy. That's Teju Lizard. Really gorgeous, fantastic, like a chisel toe. This elastic's still in beautiful condition. Around about 1950. And this is an almost identical shoe. It's pretty much the same last, made to order by Johnson & Murphy about 1950. This is caiman skin, identifiable because it's all the pot marks. Alligator and crocodile doesn't have the pot marks. Let's have a look. 1940s Teju Lizard. I'm struggling to recall the maker. They're American, quite a well-known maker. I just can't remember. I don't know the maker of these. They're Bespoke, but they're not of the best quality as regards Bespoke, if I'm honest with you. I suspect they were made, you know, you go to maybe a Hong Kong hotel and have makers in the hotels, and you know they promise to make them up over the weekend while you're staying. I don't know. I'm not sure who the maker is. These are wonderful. American again, Stetson, buckskin, and not Teju lizard. It's another lizard. Round scales. The lizard escapes me. Whereas Teju has a more oblong scale. Yeah, these have got the round scales. I forget which lizard it is. I do know, and I've made a separate video about this. These are English, probably 1960s. It's alligator skin. Now then, these are all Foster and Son, absolutely magical. Some of the best in my collection. These here are just divine. They're my favourite single pair of shoes. These are all made on the same last, carved by Terry Moore. Just amazing. These are called Chaves Brogues by Foster and Son. 1974, the black pair. I think these are 1976, and I think they're 1972. That's oh, it's a bit dusty. I should have cleaned these. It's Cordovan. These are box calf. More Foster and Son. They're very early 80s, Bespoke. More Foster and Son. They're not Bespoke. Late 80s, early 90s. Another Foster and Son from the same last. These are 1978. They've all got like a particular curve to the last. It curves, and there it is again. It kind of curves, and this one, they've all got to sort of a bizarre curve, almost like a banana. All of these pairs, they're all made on the same last. These are Foster and Son. I think they're 1960s. It's saltwater crocodile, truly gorgeous. They're crocodile skin Fosters, but they're colossal. They're way too big for me, and I will sell those. An unusual pair for Foster and Son. It's very, very sort of it's King Cobra. Very unusual for Foster and Son to use such a sort of a flashy skin. It's very American taste, that one, but perhaps it was an American client, who knows. More Foster and Son, the definitely 1960s. These are my velvet slippers, Albert slippers by Foster. These are my the Grecian slippers by Foster. More wingtip correspondents. Americans will call these spectators. English call them correspondents. They're not Bespoke. I believe they're made by Edward Green. In fact, yes, they are. I can tell by this little curve here, and the 3 nails. They're doing bunches of 3 nails. Yeah, they're made by Edward Green for Foster and Son. They're more Foster and Son, late 80s, early 90s. There's an awful lot here. What have we got? Gaziolo and Girling, completely unworn. Magical, really amazing. The quality is quite stunning. More Gaziolo and Girling. And some more. What we got here? John Lobb. Around about 2007, 2008, and that pair. This pair are rather earlier. They're in 1976 Bespoke. Really fantastic. It's got the Lobb printed into the sole still, and partly onto the heel there. I think the other heel still has it. Yeah, there it is. That usually gets worn away as they get worn, you know, with wear. These are crocodile skin Lobb, John Lobb, 1968. More John Lobb. I think. Let me just check the bottom. Yes. Once again, you see this this curve. It's that semicircle in the heel there. And then the nails in bunches of 3. Yeah, they're definitely made by Edward Green for John Lobb. So they'd be late 80s, early 90s. Not Bespoke. They're John Lobb ready to wear. These are John Lobb Bespoke. Absolutely enormous. Probably about size 13. That's crocodile skin. I'll sell these. There's nothing I can do to make those fit me. Very much similar to the other crocodiles I showed you a minute ago. And these are really gorgeous. Kangaroo skin, John Lobb, 1967. They do need some restoration. I've done nothing with them, to be honest with you. What have we got here? Balooties. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I've actually stripped the polish off. That's why they're so mucky looking. I've not got around to finishing them. Peal and Co, yeah, French, and more Balooty. Let's have a look. Yeah, they have this lovely sort of detail of nails in the bottom here. It reads Balooty tapped out there in tiny little tacks. Yeah, these are all my wife's. What else? These are very special. These are the famous 1786 Russian reindeer skin. This is the skin that's been underwater for a couple of 100 years, salvaged from a shipwreck. What have we got here? These are all these along here are Henry Maxwell's. These buckle shoes, they're fantastic. They were from around about, oh gosh, they're definitely turn of 1890 perhaps, and they've still got the most amazing tiny little nails. Can you see those little tiny nails on the edge of the heel there? They're very original. They're actually, they're a bit dusty. I should have cleaned some of these, but never mind. That's another pair of Bespoke Henry Maxwell, but they were made by Foster & Son. Foster & Son now own Henry Maxwell, and these were made, I know that because of the styling on the heel sock there. These were made in Foster & Son's workshop on a Henry Maxwell type last. They're much rounder, whereas Foster's tend to be more chiselled in the toe, and Maxwell's rounder. So Foster's still got a lot of the original tooling, and yeah, they were definitely made by in the Foster workshops. These are all exactly the same. There's 5 pairs here, ranging between the late 1960s and probably around about 1999. I believe these pair are the newest. Once again, I think they were made in the Foster & Son workshops after Foster bought the company. Some of them were made on Savile Row, without taking all the trees out, I can't tell. They were, Maxwell were owned by Huntsman of Savile Row in the 70s. And some of them were made on, I believe, it's either Vigo Street or Dover Street. But yeah, these vary wildly. They're all made for the same gentleman. And they've got the most horrendous amount of polish on them. That looks like horrendous cracking to the skin, but it's not. It's acres and acres of polish, which is built up and very hard and cracked. So this pair I've actually restored a little bit. These were just like that. They had all this horrible cracking. And it took about 12 hours to remove the polish. And underneath, the skin's actually reasonably smooth. I'll be able to smooth that out some more. There is a fair amount of a lot of the stitching, the stitching's gone rotten. You see it's starting to separate, but the skins are not bad. There was a little bit of a split at the back here. You can just see that. What I did, I took the stitching out, what was left of it. If you can just see, there's like a light area. I've put a chamois skin patch on the inside, glued that in, and then I've restitched all along the edging. This has all been restitched. There is a crack there which I'll have to open up, and I'll repair it in the same way as this. But a lot of work, but they will re-dye beautifully, and they'll come up probably a lot better than these. What else have we got? Yeah, they're all the same. So this is so dark, but it is rather dark outside, and I'm relying on a little LED. I don't know if I can turn it up slightly. No. Yeah, they're George Cleverley Cordovan. More George Cleverley. The colour's absolutely ghastly. That's my fault. They were a totally different colour to that, and I thought it'd be quite a hoot to have them red, and I don't like it, so I'm going to probably end up doing them a similar colour to this, a more sensible colour. I don't wear them in that colour. They look stupid, and that's my fault. It's not Cleverley's fault. More Cleverley, they're 1980s. They were tan and they had an oil stain, so I dyed them red. I actually quite like the red. I think it's really attractive. These are George Cleverley, when George Cleverley were on Savile Row, and that would be 1976. Fantastic Cleverleys here. The shape is so uniquely Cleverley. They're just gorgeous. I've restored that shoe. The other shoe's partly restored. Massive amount of work's gone into those. There is a separate series of videos showing this restoration. 1969, these are 1968. Once again, George Cleverley. There've been an enormous amount of restoration. All of the stitching have perished. They're George Cleverley, but they're called the Butterfly Loafer, but they're not bespoke. They're ready to wear. Now these are bespoke. I think they're 2008. It's a whole cut, really amazing. So yeah, that's all the Cleverleys, all the Maxwells. What else we got here? Peel and Co. No, Pulse and Scone. Once again, you've got this enormous amount of crunchy. You can scrape it off, look. It's yuck. I shouldn't have done that. It's all in my fingernail now. But you can actually scrape it off like varnish. The skin's actually in quite good condition underneath. There's a bit of stretching, but I'll be able to reduce that stretching onto the original trees with steam. And there is some problems with the stitching, but they will restore beautifully. But first things first, you've got to spend several hours getting the polish off. Polish in this condition doesn't just wipe away. It takes hours to dissolve it. These are Pulse and Scone. They're 1960s. These are 1940s, but late 1940s. Once again, it's completely covered in thick gungy polish, and I've stripped that one. There is a few problems with the stitching. Another pair of Pulse and Scone. These are all very similar. 1960s again. There's a bit of stretching. I'll be able to deal with that stretching. I've got the original trees somewhere, but once again, they're completely covered in polish. More Pulse and Scone, 1940s. This one's been largely restored, and this one, as you can see, is still in its fairly original condition. But what appears to be horrendous cracking to the skin, it's polish. The skin underneath is actually quite good, but it takes about 12 hours to get that polish off. There is a bit of problems around the heel area. What do we got here? These are all Peal and Co. Who made these? Crockett and Jones. Crockett and Jones for Peal and Co. More Peal and Co. Once again, Crockett and Jones for Peal and Co. Probably late 1990s, not terribly old. Now these are old. These are Peal and Co. These are Bespoke Peal and Co. Probably about 1950. It does, if I can catch the light, it just says Peal here. It's stamped in. Still got all the original nailed heels. Gorgeous. What are these? Edward Green. Once again, got the 3 nails. Look, and the nails are in batches of 3, and they've got that little curve piece of machining in the heel there. They're about 1994, I think. Really gorgeous. These are quite new. These are Edward Green, probably only about 2 years old. These are fabulous. Alan McAfee Bespoke. In original condition, completely original. Got all the original nails. Just lovely. Buckskin, very, very soft. The condition's amazing. These are American, most unusual. The quality's staggering. 1998, I think. No, I beg your pardon, 1988. This company went bust in 1988-89. They're Johnson & Murphy. And that skin is anaconda snake skin. There's another pair made on the same last, made to order for the same gentleman. They're alligator skin. And I have worn them. They were unworn and I've worn them. It was agony to wear them, to be honest with you. I just didn't want to scratch the bottom. But they're not ornaments, they are to be worn. But when I acquired these, they were totally fresh. They were 30 odd years old and never been worn. 1988-89. Truly, truly remarkable pair here. These are Bespoke by Peal and Co. Probably about 1922 or 1923. In gorgeous original condition. They were given to me by the grandson of the gentleman that had them made. The grandson's called Dr. Taylor. His grandfather was a solicitor called David, and he had these made in the 20s. Dr. Taylor himself is quite an old man now, and he acquired these in 1953 whilst he was studying at I can't remember if it was Oxford or Cambridge. It was one of the two. And he was a student at the time in the early 50s when his grandfather died, and he acquired these. But he's in rather poor health himself now, and he wants them to go to a good home. And I've restored them a bit, but tried to keep the patina. These are truly breathtaking. Probably about 1905 in completely original condition. The stitching is just mesmerisingly tiny. You can't see it on this camera, but there's actually 2 rows. That's just really soft, like Napa. Just got a very delicate fiddleback, a very, very careful sort of spade sole, button boots. Truly amazing. Equally amazing are these. Around about 1920. You can't see the stitching. The stitching's so unbelievably tiny. It's very difficult in this light. But I've tried to count them, and it's just unbelievable. They're so mesmerisingly delicate. And here we go. Let's have a look. Ooh, let me stand up. Let's turn all the way around. It does look a bit silly. I know it looks silly, but I'm not going to try and make any excuses for myself. This is madness. I know it's mad. This is not right. But it is what it is. I can't explain how this has happened that I've acquired these shoes. Right, there's one more floor. To be honest with you, the best shoes are not up on this floor. They're all here. What have we got here? These are all Foster and Son. They're not bespoke. They're ready to wear. These are French or Bercy, ready to wear, not bespoke. They're 1960s. That's camel skin. I'm not sure of the maker. 1970s Crockett and Jones. 1990s Johnson and Murphy. That's alligator skin and Cordovan. Pair of velvet Albert slippers. I'm not sure who made them. These are 3 pair of loafers. They're all by Paul Smith. I don't know who Paul Smith makes Paul Smith shoes at the time. I've actually got some more of those somewhere. I've got about another 3 or 4 pairs. They're alligator by Footjoy. About 1960, black, and I've got an identical pair in brown. The brown ones are slightly better condition, I think, but a bit of moisturiser wouldn't do the black ones any harm. I don't think I've even moisturised them. They're 1940s, alligator again, more Johnson and Murphy. 1960s Alan McAfee, more 1960s Alan McAfee. They're both calf. These are shark skin by Alan McAfee, 1960s again. 1970s floor seams, 1950s. I can't remember who made those. What do we got here? And these are all, I'm not really sure what these are, to be honest with you. They're Alan McAfee, 1960s Cordovan. These are Trickers. I adore these shoes. They're in pretty bad condition and they're desperate to be resold. And they've got no, they do polish up rather well, and I actually really like the crinkled effect, but they're incredibly soft. They're a bit battered and a bit bruised, but I don't care. I'm going to be having these completely resold, and I'll polish them up. They're Ducker and Son. What are these? These are probably about 1915, 1920. They're American. They're not in very good condition. I've not tried to restore them yet. Pair of slippers. I can't remember who made those. These are interesting. They're supposed to look like old football boots, but just a bit of fun. These are totally ridiculous. Paul Smith, stupid. Grenson, they're about 1999, these pointy things. Oliver Sweeney. These are real good fun from the 1980s. Jean-Paul Gaultier. Can't remember who made those. What else have we got? I can't remember a lot of these makers. Absolutely curious things, never worn. Let's have a look. I just can't remember who. Oh, these are Lokes that could do with cleaning properly. Now then, those winkle pickers, they were by Dolce & Gabbana. Very curious looking things. They're a Grenson, more Jean-Paul Gaultier from the 80s. And I think that's about it. They are from who are they by? Patrick Cox. He did very well in the late 80s, early 90s. But that's it. That's everything I have in the house here. Look at this. It does look silly. It really does look silly. But I'm not going to try and justify it. It is what it is. Quite a hoot. This is a collection that I've acquired over time. There are more. I do have another home where my wife and daughter spend all of their time. Thankfully, my wife and daughter don't come here and have to suffer this mess. But there are a few at my other home. Let me just move myself down. And nobody could live like this. My wife and daughter don't live here. This is a largely empty house.
But it's got some great shoes in it. It does look crazy, doesn't it? It really does look crazy. Yeah, the furniture's all been moved to the other room when we had the ceiling fell down in that with the storm. But yeah, I'm not going to try and excuse. It is what it is. Oh, I've got one more pair on my feet. Let's have a look. These are John Lobb. Probably from the 1970s. John Lobb Grecian slippers with a pair of silk socks. But and that suit's from 1978. It's been modified to fit me. It's had a lot of reworking. But yeah, let's go back down. I have to tread carefully because I don't want to be slipping on any of these stupid shoes on the stairs. Right, that's just over 30 minutes. That's absolutely plenty. That is most of the collection. There are other pieces. I've probably got about 20 to 30 pieces at work, all under various stages of restoration, and there's a handful at my other home where my wife and daughter spend all of their time. I split my time between this house. I do have a cosy room in this house where I stay, but my main family home is with my wife and daughter. They don't suffer this ludicrous nonsense of all these shoes, but there we go. I'll bite the bullet. I'm a little embarrassed to let you see this, but there we go. I do hope you've enjoyed it if you've had the patience to watch it through.